everybody, and welcome to Xucaboa, 100% Vanilla Baby, where I'm trying to make the least vanilla 100% vanilla city you've ever seen in your entire life. Let's load up our last save, and as always, I'd like to say thank you, gracias, obrigado, merci, and grazie to new Xucaboa citizens. Arthur DeMilosar, Arthur Fanti, Victor Hugo Guerrero, David O'Guerra, Maverick2612, Matthew Borders, Chris Wharton, Elias Smiley, Daxto, Kemar779, Ori Cities, William Mancalo, Jody Cox, Tim Anger, Tau Alpha Nu, Joey Kowalczyk, You Will Be Offended, CCTA26, Steven Spry, Icaro Romano, Paulo da SV, Sarah Ducky, Alessandro Colosi, Kratos Orion 400, Nikki Bills, Urban Sin, Arna Simulation, Jake Gems, and an ACC original. On the honor roll today, we have the Big Q57, Romano Rutia, No Mercy 8008, and Mr. Mason. Alright, here we go. If you're new here, there's a lot going on already, but this is a project-based series, so each project is able to be watched apart from the others. Let's quickly review the work we did last episode, starting with this triple trumpet interchange system. By using the significant slope in the area, we built a super smooth interchange system that connects 5 different highway branches together with zero spaghetti going on. We also added a double rail bridge spur and a train station. That train station is connected to the downtown area of Balcón by this metro station right next to it. Over here we created the new high-density neighborhood of Farmington Hills in an old agricultural area. Those original fields of Farmington were relocated across the map to the new Campo de 300 area. This new area was left unfinished. Okay, so I had asked if we should do our next project in any of the undeveloped sectors around the city. I received a few votes for where to go next, but Sector Alpha on Il Cachalo received the most votes. And Joy Build Cities had a comment that really piqued my interest. She mentioned Coast Guard vibes. Now, I had already had some ideas for what to do over here. I mean, it's rough terrain area with a massive cliff facing directly to the ocean. So, not an ideal place to have a Coast Guard station, I think. But then I thought, let's make it one. I wanted to preserve the character of the huge cliffs, but I figure I can add a small harbor area in front of them. It will have to provide shelter from the open ocean, so we'll create a jetty wall in the strait. This is a double-edged corner of our buildable tile, so we're going to have to get it to fit just right. I've raised the terrain here to 2 meters above sea level and used gravel roads to create the outline for the harbor. Now I'll lay down some old-fashioned key walls because I don't want Sims walking on them like they can with the new CCP keys. When we look closely, we see that there's some terrain discrepancy, probably from the key dipping just a tiny bit. Putting assets on the waterfront will require the most absolutely level terrain possible, so we'll have to smooth these out and redo them until they are perfect. Very rarely do I care if something is perfect, but this has to be in order to work right. By doing this engineering here, I greatly increase my chances of having my waterfront assets sit perfectly flush with the terrain. The way docks and piers interact with the waterfront is probably my least favorite vanilla mechanic. It drives me absolutely insane trying to get stuff to sit just right, so anything I can do to make that even just a little bit easier is a good thing. Now let's put down our first asset, which will define the outermost point of our harbor. That will be the Climate Station Unique building. With its tower and radar dome, it looks right at place here. The tower can function as an aid to navigation for incoming vessels. We have an abandoned lighthouse across the strait, but we can't access that prop without using mods on PC. So the tower will serve as another navigational beacon on the other side. And Now we'll do our best to get fishing boat docks placed flat with the terrain. Their built-in street always seems to want to elevate a meter or sometimes even 10 above the ground. But our prep work has made it very likely that if we shift them around just right, they'll find a sweet spot and be perfectly flat. Ay caramba, we did it. I was really pretty nervous about recording that. An unanticipated bonus of this fill area is that the oil terrain underwater now is showing us a different color for the soil. That's great. I love variety like that. Now this harbor is going to be useless if we can't get road access to it. And we've got this 60 to 70 meter cliff we've got to go around. I'm going to create some steps on the cliff and then connect them with the slope terrain tool to make a switchback road that snakes down. Once the road is in place, we'll just go back and make sure that each segment is smooth. I find that when smoothing out networks, there's always an element of going back and forth. It's like sanding a piece of wood. You gotta get your rough cut first, and then smooth out the rest, and eventually you'll have a very nice, smooth finished product. Here, I want to do my favorite type of intersection, the 120-degree three-way junction. If you have your road angle guidelines on, you can see the angle marker switches sides at 120 degrees. Using a boulevard with parking, I'll add a small cul-de-sac at the end of this street. Up here was an unfinished overpass, so let's connect that to our one-way loop highway. We'll just do some light terrain work around here and create a random road layout that hopefully makes some kind of sense. Anyone who's seen my videos before knows that I don't specifically plan anything. It's just kind of random and organic. A trap that I see a lot of city builders fall into is the idea that they need to have a super compact grid city. I hope that if you're one of these types of builders, you can see the merits of leaving open spaces and building with terrain in a fluid manner. I don't mean to suggest that you don't plan anything, but just that you don't always try to fill every single space with zonable cells. I've said it before and I'll say it again, building a beautiful city is like composing a song. If you zone everything as compactly as possible, you really just end up with noise. By adding notes and silences, you end up composing a lovely melody. Having adequate road hierarchy is your rhythm section. Blending building styles gives you a powerful harmony, and detailing with trees, vegetation, and props creates a magnificent symphony orchestra. Forgive me if that metaphor was a bit much, but I really do think it sums up my philosophy on city building with this game. In addition to some walking paths connecting these long stretches of road, let's add a cable car that'll shuttle people up and down the cliff. Okay, now it's time for our first honor roll member. Many months ago, the Big Q57 commented that this body of water that wraps inside Il Cachalot isn't a bay, but rather an inlet. Back then, the honor roll hadn't been implemented like it is now, not that it's very scientific or anything, but Big Q has continued to be an outstanding member of Xucaboa, and so I think we'll name this inlet the Big Q57 Inlet. For our second honor roll member, you may remember him from Hotel Roman and from the neighborhood Roman Square. He's Roman, obviously, and he's been continuing to build his replica version of this city on Xbox. He's all caught up from last episode and sent me this video that I'll share here. Roman knows this city better than just about anyone except me, and as such, I'm gonna name him the Minister of Neighborhoods. I don't know what that means, but it sounds pretty official. Since Roman is French, we'll give him this building and call it the Ministère des Quartiers. Merci, Monsieur le Ministre. I want to let everyone know that I'm always very happy to chat with people about my city or their cities or city skylines in general. And you can find me on Discord in Captain Obvious' server, among several others, or on Facebook in the City Skylines Vanilla group. I was discussing building styles with Roman when I said that I wasn't so happy with the look of this long block of high density in Roman Square. I was thinking I'd go European high density, but he said he thought Green City's high density would be better. So I'll be doing that along with our neighborhood project today. Before I forget, let's add a ferry stop here to allow another boat system, as well as giving Sims a transportation alternative to get in and out of this area. And along the jetty, let's add some breakwater rocks to close off the harbor entrance. Rocks are terrain conforming, so you can adjust them with the terrain, and they stack pretty well neatly on top of each other. Now we'll just smooth out the waterfront edge for a more natural look before we begin placing our named buildings. If you didn't already know, everyone who subscribes to the channel and comments gets a building name for them in this city. We can begin by naming the buildings we've already placed down. The Arthur de MS Anchovy Docks, the David H Ferry Stop, Chris O Cable Cars. What? Ay caramba, I meant to put a shellfish dock here. Whoops. Let's just switch that out. Hopefully it fits. Yep, perfect. Alright. The Kimar 7779 shellfish docks. We'll call this the Jody C Climate Station. Here is the Joey K Navigation Tower. Another navigational beacon we can use for the strait. Here's the Stephen Spry Coast Guard Helo Depot. Gotta have a Helo Depot for the Coast Guard. Call this the Vase XOAA building, the Showa building, and we'll call this the Jody C Showa Station instead of Climate Station. That's like NOAA, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. This will be the Xucaboa Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration. Let's put this tax office and call it the Kratos Orion 400 CG Admin Office, because it looks very much like a Coast Guard building that I've seen in a lot of very small harbor towns. Here we'll call this the Art of Simulation Police Department. And here the Arthur F. Firehouse. Coast Guard stations need small docks for their fast patrol and rescue craft. Here we'll put the Maverick 2612 CG Marina. And we'll start adding some other docks and piers along the waterfront, like the William S. Fishing Cabin. Here is the Ori Cities Fishing Tours docks. And here is the Tim E. Pier. Let's add a few small docks and then rearrange everything so that it looks a little better. Now we'll put down a clinic and call it the You Will Be Offended MD. Here we'll put the Sarah Ducky Japanese Garden. And right next to it, let's put this unique temple building. We'll call it the, how do I do the accented I? Let me think. Oh well, we'll just call it the Ikaro Eji Temple. This temple will be another large building vessels can use for navigation along the strait. Here we'll place down the Nikki Builds Intercity Bus Station. On this side of Sector Alpha, we'll put the Jake Jemison High School. And next to it, the Victor Hugo H Volleyball Court. Over here will be the Matthew B. B-Ball Court, or the MBBBC2, because if you remember, we have MBBBC from Martin B over here in Canal Heights. Let's place a sauna here for Daxto. And along this ridge, we'll put the William M. Firewatch. Right here, we'll put Tau Alpha Nu radio mast. Near the temple, we'll put this Paulo da S viewing deck. And up here, we'll put the Alessandro C overlook. Let's clear out a space here for a taxi depot for Urbane Sim. Now let's prepare something for our next honor roll member. In my new modded historical city project, Xucaboa, I constructed a megalithic monument site on the outskirts of the first Neolithic village. No Mercy 8008 had some really thoughtful comments about putting a version of the monument here in the Vanilla Baby. Since OXG takes place in a customized Roslyn Peninsula, our first village is actually right around the Canal District, and the monument is somewhere just across the Scroggins Highway. So let's do a vanilla version of the megalithic burial mound and dolmen found in OXG series. We'll just put it inside this triangular block and make a small historic site out of it. It's a pretty simple thing to create, both in vanilla and with mods. There you go. Not much to it, but it's pretty cool and kind of connects the two stories together, and we'll call it the No Mercy 8008 Megalithic Burial Mound and Dolmen. Thank you again for the very thoughtful comments, No Mercy. Let's connect our ferry pathways to the new stop in the harbor. Now we'll do the same and create fishing vessel runs. Fishing vessel tracks are able to go outside into the locked tiles, unlike the ferry pathways. A small note about realism is that unless you're doing small maneuvers inside a harbor, your ship should steer straight courses before making any course changes. You'll want to avoid very curvy lengths of fishing vessel track. You could round off any corners to more accurately mimic ship movement when making a turn for a new course, but the courses themselves should be long straight lines. There is something to say about the zigzag nature of fishing boats, but I won't get into that here. I just want to keep it simple and smooth. We have to connect our ferry stops together, so we'll get rid of the old route and make a new one. Let's make sure to put our water pipes in the new area and have our starting electricity connections made. Now we can turn on our disabled buildings, and I'll do a time fade to the future. Here we go. This is the future. 65 game years to the day have passed, and I've spent the last several hours growing the buildings I want and detailing this new area. As I fly around now, take a look at how I've tried to blend industrial, commercial, and residential assets together to get the look that I thought was best. A key element of building on this cliff was to make sure all the buildings face towards the water by zoning just on one side of the street. As always, I tried to choose buildings that look good next to each other and in their small area together as a whole. In that long block that Roman and I had discussed, I changed it out for some Green City's high-density residential and low-density commercial. Good idea, Roman. Take a look at this office building here. If it doesn't look too familiar to you, that's because it's actually a level 3 industrial 4x4, and I think it looks great at the industrial waterfront. While doing all of this zoning and detailing, we got a new Xucaboa citizen, so I've added this elementary school here, and we'll call it the ACC Original Elementary. I also had to put a firehouse down, so the first person to comment and write FD for me will get this firehouse named for them in the next episode. And right here where the letter A is, we'll just zone a park for the next episode as well. I was thinking about putting it in, but that's a project on its own, and we can name a lot of assets for people if we get a jump in subscribers like we have the last 2 episodes. Now, as I was detailing the cliff, I did something that I thought was pretty cool, so I want to do it again. I used these large, flat rocks to create this bluff area. I think that looks really cool. And next to it was an existing crevice in the cliff, I think is what I'd call that. And it looked like a good spot for a waterfall. So I wanted to set that up. Since there's no water source in this area, we'll have to make our own with a freshwater outlet. By digging a hole in this park and placing the outlet in the hole, it should cover up the outlet and make it look like a natural body of water. Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, at the bottom of the waterfall, I want to add a bridge, and I think this elegant stone arch bridge will look really nice here. And I'll do the tree planting off camera and fade back in afterwards. Okay, so we've got two distinct areas to paint as districts. We have this harbor area, and then on top of the cliffs. Now it's time to recognize our final honor roll member for today, Mr. Mason. Mr. Mason is the supremely talented workshop creator who made all of the new beautiful trees that came with the Airports DLC free update. He watched my tree review video that I put out the day of the release and became a Xucaboa citizen. So we'll name this new district Mr. Mason Falls. I think we can all agree that Mr. Mason deserves special recognition for his hard work that has helped improve the natural beauty of everyone's cities. I have a name for this harbor, but before I name it, I'd like to explain a few things. First off, what I built is a harbor. The assets, like fishing harbors or cargo harbor, they're not harbors. They're docks, piers, wharfs, terminals, etc. They're things you'll find in a harbor. So I just want that to be clear. Always kind of bothered me. You may have seen this CY I put in the lawn of the building here. It's not CY, it's SU, the Cyrillic letters for Slava Ukraini. While I've been working on this video, a brutal war has been unfolding in the old country, and while these imaginary flower beds mean very little, I'd like to leave them here as a symbol of my hope that the war will end very soon and all people in the world will live peacefully together. This channel is multilingual and multicultural, because in my ideal society, those are important values that foster goodwill between different peoples. Right now, millions of people are fleeing their homes to find safety elsewhere, becoming displaced in strange lands. This is not unique to the war in Ukraine. According to the UNHCR, 82.4 million people worldwide have been forcibly displaced as a result of persecution, conflict, violence, human rights violations, or events seriously disturbing public order. This is nearly double the figure from 10 years ago. I've named this building the Xucaboa Refugee Shelter, as a symbolic place in the city to receive incoming people and help them. For my entire adult life, one of my favorite organizations to donate to has been HIAS, whose mission is to provide vital services to refugees and asylum seekers around the world and advocate for their fundamental rights so they can rebuild their lives. HIAS is over 100 years old, and its origins began by helping families like mine escape the pogroms of the old country to come to New York City. According to Charity Navigator, HIAS is an exceptional charity you can give to with confidence, scoring 91.32%. Maybe one person can't always change the world, but they can change the world for someone else. You don't have to donate money to this charity to do good, but I hope that you consider doing something to help people in need. The world always needs all the helpful people that it can get. So here's a look at our city so far. I really am pleasantly surprised with how HIAS Harbor has turned out. It has a very familiar feel to me, as someone who has sailed in and out of countless harbors and ports in my life. Let's hitch a ride with our bird's eye bird and fly around overhead to see what the Seagull sees. Thanks for watching Xucaboa 100% Vanilla Baby, and I'll see you next time.